Don't let your heart be troubled. Jesus says, you trust in God, trust also in me. So take a deep breath. Let go of whatever troubles might be going on in the world around you. And here's the invitation. Here is your phrase for the day. Love the mat. If you're watching, instead of just listening to this, you will notice that I am holding a mat. It can be used for yoga or for stretching or any number of things that may involve your body in quite challenging ways. And the invitation today, the sentence you're going to want to take with you, and I'll come back to it, is love the mat. Now, we're learning about this invitation to live with an untroubled heart in a troubled world from our friend Jesus. And it's at the core of John chapter 14 and chapter 15 that we've looked at. So today I want to back up and look at the couple verses right in front of John 14. They involve his disciple Peter and a few questions. And because Peter asked them, it sets up this whole wonderful passage about the untroubled heart. Jesus has been telling them he'll be leaving the earth. He's about to be crucified. Gives them command to love each other. Simon Peter asked him, Lord, where are you going? Jesus, you'll notice he doesn't answer the question. He says, where I am going, you cannot follow now, but you will follow later. Peter asked, Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. Then Jesus answered, but again, he doesn't answer Peter's question. Doesn't tell him why he can't follow now. He says, will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly, I tell you, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And then he moves right into the next words. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Now, one of the striking things about this whole, what is called the upper room discourse in John 13, 14, 15, and so, Tom Wright talks about the disciples keep asking Jesus questions, but he keeps not answering the questions that they ask, and he answers something different. So Thomas goes on to say, Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? And Jesus doesn't give him a route, doesn't give him a method. He says, oh, actually, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If you know me, you know the Father. And then Philip says, Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. And Jesus does not show him the Father, doesn't answer that question. He says, do you not know me, Philip, after I've been with you for such a long time? And then talks about being with the Father. And then a little bit later on, Judas, not Judas Iscariot, said, but Lord, why do you intend to show yourself to us and not to the world? Jesus replied, anyone who loves me will obey my teaching. My Father will love that. He doesn't answer that. It's like in every case, they keep asking the wrong question. Part of what makes this conversation so dense. So Jesus keeps answering the question that they should have been asking. Not only do they get the answers wrong, they can't even get the questions right. And of course, at the front of this parade is Peter, who's got 2 of these questions that are both off. Now, Peter is always the first mentioned of the disciples. As you may well know, Jesus calls him the rock. I'm going to build my church on this. He becomes the leader of the early church. He's the one that, after the crucifixion and the resurrection, preaches the great sermon at Pentecost that kind of launches the church. Why is that? In what way does Peter excel all of the other disciples? Is he the smartest? I don't think so. Does he always get stuff right? Is he the most faithful? Does he know the Bible the best? I would suggest that his preeminent quality is this. He is willing to be publicly wrong and pick himself back up and keep going. And if you are going to be a disciple of Jesus, see, that just means to be a learner. And if I'm going to learn, that means I got to come to know stuff that I don't know right now. I must learn to get right inside me what is wrong right now. And Peter does that over and over and over again. And in fact, there is no other way to get to a troubled heart. And that brings us to loving the mat. This is from Reid Wilson's little book, Stopping the Noise. And he talks about how his son was in martial arts tournament, and he was asking him, I think it was Taekwondo, ask him how it went. And eventually his son opened up about the event, and that as soon as the bell rang, his competitor ran to him and delivered a roundhouse kick to Patrick's side, knocking him onto the mat. And so this startled him enormously, and he didn't want that experience again. To suddenly take a stinging kick from his challenger, get knocked to the mat. So in the remaining time, he became 100% defensive. His goal was to remain standing the rest of the fight. No matter what, he would not end up on the mat again. He did a lot more backing up than stepping forward. At the end of those 2 rounds, the score was 1-7. He had lost badly. This seemingly negative experience taught Patrick a valuable lesson about stepping forward, and he goes on to become a good learner, a good disciple in this practice. And then Reid goes on to write this. It is no practice that one of the mottos trainers and instructors in various martial art forms all over the world pass on to their students is love the mat. In some cases, they've expanded the motto to love the mat and the view of the ceiling. I can appreciate the visual of lying on your back on the cold cushioned surface, even for a second, staring at the distant lighting grid above you, and just enjoying the view. See, it's a paradoxical strategy. Love the mat, because when I do that, then my mind is no longer consumed with the fear of the mat. And that's where the enemy always wants to place your mind. That's why the most common command in Scripture from God to people is, do not be afraid, because fear, it's not just that fear is unpleasant. And in fact, his call to not fear always involves not shutting off the feeling of fear, but engaging the action while I trust in God that actually produces the feeling of fear. When I come to love the mat, then the position is fine. I might end up on the mat. So what? I can handle it. I can face all things through Christ who gives me strength. This allows you to move forward. You can focus more on your consciousness. You can focus more of your consciousness on handling the challenge in front of you. Here's another way of saying this. We're going to end up on the mat repeatedly. If we're busy protecting ourselves against hitting the mat, if we are working to guarantee a certain designated comfort level, our consciousness is in an internal battle that weakens our life. The less we worry about being thrown to the mat, the less likely we are to end up on the mat. This is a paradoxical strategy that says to go after what threatens you, welcome discomfort, and allow the occasional punch in the gut from anxiety. You cannot keep backing up into a place of safety and expect to grow. And this is true for any human being when it comes to how do we deal with fear and anxiety. It is especially true for you, my friend, if you are a follower of Jesus and you want to grow and you would like to live together with God with an untroubled heart in a troubled world. To be fully engaged, you are going to have to give up control. And this is what we see with Peter over and over. So they're in the boat. He is the one disciple who is willing to get out of the boat to try to follow Jesus. And of course, he falls into the water. Peter, love the water. He is on the Mount of Transfiguration, and there's Jesus and Moses and Elijah, and Peter's the one who says, quite foolishly, hey, Jesus, we could build a little tabernacle, a little shrine to each of the 3 of you. And he says it because he didn't know what else to say. And he's wrong, but he learns. When Jesus begins to predict that he's going to have to go to the cross, Peter's the one that takes him aside and says, don't say that. People won't like that. And Jesus has to rebuke him. Get behind me, Satan. Love the mat, Peter. When Jesus goes to the Garden of Gethsemane and the soldiers come, it's Peter that takes the sword and hacks off the ear of one of the soldiers, a guy named Malchus. Jesus has to patch it back on, apologize to the soldier. I've been working with Peter for 3 years. I can't do anything with him. How do you like the mat, Peter? And then, of course, the most awful failing of all, when, just as Jesus predicted, Peter denies his Lord not once but 3 times. And then Jesus lovingly restores them. And we read about that a little bit later on in the Gospel of John. Love the mat, love the mat, love the mat. The quality that Peter brought is he learned to love the mat. He was willing to get out of the boat. And this is the only way that growth happens. It feels like the way to have an untroubled heart is to avoid a troubled world. No, 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 no. It's lean in, lean forward, learn to love the mat, learn to accept the fact I have failed. I have failed publicly. I have gone through stuff that is quite painful to talk about. And still sometimes when I talk about with somebody, I will feel that pain. I will also feel this strange sense of freedom. As I am reminded, it was precisely in that time of my life when I felt most keenly and painfully, nobody thinks I'm doing well, that I met the grace and the love and the God more deeply and more profoundly than I had ever met it before. A couple of more words from Reid Wilson. He says, I'm not talking about a behavior therapy approach to your problems. We're actually leading with our minds, your thoughts, your attitude. If it continues to reflect the point of view that says it's best to get back to where I feel safe and comfortable again, then you're never going to grow. And of course, this is supremely true for disciples. To compete with such a perspective, you need to take on a different attitude. Consider this logic. I need to frequently generate distress and sit with it for a while in order to get stronger. I want to get stronger, so I actually want frequency, intensity, and duration. Don't just step into your threatening environment. Seek out frequent exposures to your threat. Now, this is true for any human being that's dealing with anxiety. Avoidance is the death knell. Moving towards it is the only way to grow into it, but it is supremely true in the spiritual realm. And gang, this is why the Apostle Paul wrote this to the church at Corinth, where he realizes, God says, my strength is made perfect in your weakness. When you stop trying to cobble it together yourself, stop using avoidance as a method, stop trying to not be a failure, accept the reality of your inadequacy and your weakness. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. And every time you feel that sense of weakness or that sense of fear, if you will embrace it and say, this is just what I want, and I'm going to keep following God. God, I will be with you and endure this as you enable me to face it. Then growth comes, then strength comes in ways that it would not otherwise come. This is why Paul says these amazing words. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses. Boast, notice the language, gladly. So that the Christ power rests on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weakness, really. I delight in insults, hardships, persecutions, difficulties. For a reason, for when I am weak, then I am strong. So today, take the risk, face the fear, follow Christ, love the mat, grow an untroubled heart.
Hey, I'm Tim. I'm part of the team here at Become New. If you enjoyed that teaching from John, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes from him. Right now, we're doing a little PS on the series Untroubled Heart that we concluded 2 weeks ago. But there were some things John wanted to mention that didn't make it in any episodes, and so we just decided to do a few extra. So that's what we're doing now. If you recall, at the beginning of Untroubled Heart, we issued a pre-series peace survey to gauge the peace of your heart, and over 1,000 of you participated in that, so thank you. Now we're issuing a post-series survey, and that will just help us learn and grow as a team to measure the impact of these teachings. So you can find the link to participate in that survey in the show notes below. We'd sure appreciate it. Also, I mean it when I say that there is a group of us who meet every weekday for 1 hour to pray for you and for any viewer who sends in a prayer request. So if you've got a burden or a prayer request, you don't have to bear it alone. We would love to pray for you. You can text it to us at the number 855-888-0444 or email it to us at connect@becomenew.com. You can also check out our website, becomenew.com, to find more resources like the email and other things that you might find interesting. Thanks for joining us. Remember that the most important thing about your life is the person you become. We'll see you next time.